Hello there, it's Myra. Right, well, I've got a little junk journal. It was originally my plan to do nothing. Sorry, there's a bit of light reflecting in here and I don't know if I can stop it, but the sun... Wait a minute, I'll shut the blind over. How's that? No, that's not making any difference. Yeah, that's us. Right, so I'm now shooting in the dark. This will be short. Originally, I have to confess, I had no plans whatsoever to make anything else quite so quickly after the last one. I was going to give it a break, but I saw Saturday afternoon, I was sitting after I come back from lunch watching YouTube. Wait a minute, I'll move my hands because some folk get really annoyed when they think there's nothing happening. Watching YouTube, and somebody had put up a video of a journal that her daughter had made, and apparently her daughter was just a wee girl. Can't remember who it is, so I can't leave a link. But I sat there and I thought, you know, that's really nice, and I thought I could make something. I don't need to make it as elaborate as I normally do. I could literally just make a wee journal for writing. So that's what I set out to do, and I got started on Saturday afternoon. Needless to say, there's absolutely no way I would do anything in one day. So it dragged on to the next day. And over Sunday, I basically finished what is, to all intents and purposes, a very small, fairly plain writing journal. However, I thought, you know, if you're offering something like this up for sale, maybe some folk are not going to think, when they're used to seeing what you make, that this is very fancy or if it's worth buying. So I thought, well, you know, what I could maybe try and do is make something to put it in. So that's what I did. I made a wee bag up and decorated it. I watch just about everybody in some respects, but I was watching Larry, Girl on the Rage, the other day. Sorry Laurie, I'm not being cheeky, right, but that's, you say it the same way all the time, and you always say, "Good morning, my crafty friends." She probably well, I don't know, maybe she does know she says it. Well, I suppose we all have wee things that we say all the time. Gail always goes, "Hello, it's Gail." Anyway, right, I'm not slagging anybody, I'm just basically saying the things that I've noticed, and I dare say I say the same things as well. So anyway, that aside, Laurie, Girl on the Ridge, has been doing a lot of file folders. Now, file folders are not readily available in the UK from what I can see, or if they are not called file folders. So I have sourced something which I think is similar to a file folder, but not quite the same. So I've ordered some for me to have a tackle at that, but in the interim, what I have is a paper bag. And I know a paper bag isn't very exciting, but there you go. That's all I've got, so I will do what I can with what I have. Here's how the bag started. Wee paper bag, paper bag, paper bag, nothing fancy. 7 by 7 it is in terms of size. So, what I then did, I'll take the journal out, right, and put the journal to the side, and we'll have a look at the bag. On the back, we've got a bit of Tim Holtz, just Tim Holtz paper stuck on. On the front, another piece of Tim Holtz, and I cut it the wrong size because I'm an idiot. I knew exactly what size I was looking for and promptly cut the wrong size. So I then decided to add some, well, you call it cheesecloth. It is in fact gauze, because if you order cheesecloth here, you get muslin, because that's what we use to strain cheese. This would not strain cheese because you would get big lumps running through the holes in it. So this is gauze. I have stained it with some Lindy Stamp Gang and put a wee bit at the bottom as well, because of course I cut it just way too short. Then I started decorating. So I have a crumpled up doily that's tea stained, and a couple of different book pages here. I sewed them together because I had used some embossing paste on this, or what's it called? Wait a minute, I'll show you what it is. Nouveau Embellishment Mousse. It's the only one I've got. And I bought the kind of creamy colour. It's, I mean, I might tell you what colour it is. Mother of Pearl. Because you can add any colour of Distress ink to it and effectively colour it. So I used some of the Victorian Velvet to colour it and used it through a stencil. Then while that was drying, I crushed up the doily, if you like, part of the doily, and some music paper and some text paper from the same book. I sewed them together to hold them in place because I didn't want to overdo the glue on them, and then just started decorating round about it. So this is just one of my pieces of ephemera which I've printed off in vellum. I've attached it with brads because you know yourself, vellum, if you use glue, it puckers and it just doesn't look right. A couple of different bits of lace and fabric here. Another wee lace ruffle, sorry, but it's a fabric ruffle with some lace, and I then added some paper flowers. Here I've added some sisal, which you get to decorate flowers when you're doing, you know, dry flower arrangements. Added a button with an Eiffel Tower on it. Well, that's a Scrabble tile. That's been lying about my desk for ages, right, because I bought these to make them, to decorate them, but they're quite thick for putting in a book, so I've tended not to use them with the books. That's just a stamped image that I've coloured with Victorian Velvet Distress ink, and another one of those wee cameos here with the paper flowers. So it's actually quite nice. I mean, I'm quite happy with it. I appreciate it is still, at the end of the day, a paper bag, but it's quite an attractive way in which you can store your little journal. And bearing in mind that it started like that, I don't think it looks too bad at all. I think it looks quite impressive. Anyway, let's get on to the journal itself. The journal I've given a name. I know, again, I don't normally do names, but I have this time, and I called it Precious. So there's not a lot to it, I have to say. It's not, a minute, we'll measure it. I've got my Tim Holtz ruler here. So you're talking 4 1/4 by just 6 1/4 effectively. It's covered with fabric. I've put a 4-hole, I think it was 4-hole pamphlet stitch type thing, and I did the sewing on the outside and added a couple of wee glass beads just to, you know, to add to the preciousness, if you like, to make it look as if it was something that belonged to somebody that was quite wealthy. We've got another wee cameo there. Right, oh, and I did wee corners because I'm never very happy with the way these, when I watch people doing this and I do it your way as opposed to the way I would have done it, I always feel it just doesn't finish very well. You've got to be very, very careful how you organise it. So I prefer to add book corners if I can when I do it the way I see it on the telly. Right, let's get into the inside. Inside we've got some scrapbooking paper lining it, and there's not a lot of decoration as such, but there are some tags. So this is just, it was actually a journaling card from Prima Marketing, and I added some, what do you call it, some of that gauze again, and a couple of different bits of lace, and an image that I had printed onto fabric. And then I've got some wee bling stones down it there. And that goes into this little pocket at the front, which is made of lace that I just sewed down the centre. Just another wee tag for you to make notes on. Again, it's a Prima Marketing 6x6 paper, and I just added some images. And that's another one of my vellum pieces there that I've attached with a brad in the corner, so you move it out the way. And then there you can see the rest of the things that are stuck on this. Right, so it's basically stamping that's in this. There are no collages as such. This wee pocket is, I think it was just a doily or some description. It wasn't, it was far too small to be a paper handkerchief, or not a paper handkerchief, to be a fabric handkerchief. So it must have been some sort of wee doily that somebody used, and there was a couple of wee images either corner, and the two corners that didn't have an image were left, so I used them as wee pockets. This is just one of my images that I printed out into vellum, which is just intended purely as ephemera for the book, because obviously you can't write on that. Book page there, graph paper with some stamping, music paper, and I cut it using a die, stamping, doily. I've made doily pockets here, and I added I added a circle of paper underneath. So you've got a vellum piece of ephemera, a little bus ticket, vintage bus ticket, and another wee vellum sticker that you could use if you want to use to decorate the book. Book page here, layered up butterfly in here, just a wee circle that I die cut from a piece of paper, and another piece of ephemera that I printed out. Some more stamping. That's music manuscript paper. I bought a book of this recently. It tea stains really well, obviously. It's brand new, but it looks obviously quite vintage by the time I was done with it. Some more stamping there, doily, more stamping down the bottom. And there's the centre. Of course there's no threads because I've done the sewing on the outside. Doily, more stamping. Music paper again. That's the same image as is on the envelope, or not the envelope, on the paper bag. Just didn't bother colouring that in. Some more ephemera here, and that's one of the wee bits that was left over from the bingo card I cut up the last time, and another wee oval. Book page. Another wee journaling card that I sewed some paper in the back of. More wee butterflies. Just another vellum picture, one of my wee bus tickets that I had left over from the last journal, and a scrap of flowers. And another tag here that I made using Prima marketing paper. So it's fairly straightforward, but there's nothing, I haven't put anything in that pocket. Right, wait a minute, because we must have something on my desk I could add. I'll add this wee clock that's cut from another thingy scrapbooking paper. And in the back, another wee tag here, again just fabric sewn on and embellished. And you can write in the back of that, and that's the book. Now, before I thought there's really not a lot to that, I had also decided to make a little booklet to go with it that I had planned in putting in one of the pockets, but by the time I was done the book was too small to take the wee booklet. So it's just a wee booklet and just wee pages. Put a wee pocket in, but I haven't put anything in the pocket. Sewn in the middle. And that will be going with it. So I'll just put it at the back, and it will all fit inside the paper bag, which is all decorated up. And that's it. There you go. So that will go for sale in my Etsy shop, and I shall await the arrival of my file folders. Speaking of file folders, right, I can't remember what it is that I found them under. I think it might just have been something like buff folders. But at one point, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, at one point I was looking for envelopes to use to make as junk journals, and I googled manila envelopes, and I wondered why I was getting back hundreds of answers that were all in the Philippines, and I thought, what's going on here? what's the Philippines got to do with it? And then it occurred to me that Manila is the capital of the Philippines. And I thought, oh Google, what are you like? Anyway, there we go. Right, there's my wee junk journal and my wee paper bag and my wee mini journal that goes with it. Hope you like it. Please let me know what you think. And as I've said, I'll put it up for sale in my Etsy shop if you're interested. And I'll speak to you all again soon-ish. I don't know when, but whatever. Right, bye, bye.